Peace be with you, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Trevor. Really grateful to have you here today, and in today's video I'm just going to be doing a weekly review on the fragrances that I was wearing throughout the week last week, from I think the 10th or the 11th up until the 17th of December. So near me for the previous week, it's been pretty cold. It's mostly been in the 40s. It's been cloudy. We really haven't had any sun for the entire month of December. Luckily today it's sunny out, and yesterday we had some sun. So it's been really nice to sort of get that vitamin D, I guess you could say, and get out of that seasonal affective disorder, depression. Even though I don't really get affected by that too much. But I've got a little bit of natural light coming in through the window right now, and it's really pleasant to sort of see the light reflecting off the snow, which we ended up getting recently. Towards the end of the week here, it really dropped off a hill in terms of temperature. So it's finally, winter's really setting in. It's looking like we might have a white Christmas this year, which is going to be the first one we've had in many years. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into the video. So on Monday, it was about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, pretty cloudy, a little bit dark, gloomy. So I've been in the mood for some darker fragrances, smoky accents, that type of accord, and so I went with Stronger With You Absolutely on Monday. Out of all of the Stronger With You line, I've only tried this one and the Eau de Toilette. I prefer the Eau de Toilette slightly just because it's a little bit more wearable in more occasions. It's got some fruity accents, but I'm a huge fan of boozy accords, and this one has got that in here. There's no smoky notes, I think, in the fragrance list, or the note list breakdown for this fragrance, but I do get a slight smoky vibe out of this. It reminds me slightly of like By the Fireplace or the Imaginary Author's Memoirs of a Trespasser. It's kind of in that vein. Yeah, so Monday, Giorgio Armani, Stronger With You Absolutely. Alright, moving right along here, we have Tuesday, same thing, cloudy, about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Kind of starting to get a little bit more into the festive mood because we're inching closer to Christmas Day. So I went ahead and went with Bulgari's Man in Black. So this is, again, there's a slight boozy accord in this one, so one of my favorite notes in the wintertime, although it's not as prominent as the spices. But yes, very similar to Spice Bomb Extreme. That one I think is a little bit too bubblegummy for me, a little bit more youthful than this one. This one's a little bit more grown up. Alberto Morillas is the perfumer, so it's like super high quality. Really just, I think this is going to be more or less a staple for me in the wintertime. I think it's really much more versatile than most of the other fragrances that I reach for in the winter. But yeah, beautiful fragrance. It's getting a little bit harder to find. You used to be able to get this in like cheapy range, like around $40. Now it's kind of like more like 90 or 100, which is, I'm more than happy to pay that amount for this fragrance, because that's more or less where Spice Bomb's been hanging around, and Spice Bomb, you only get 90 mLs, whereas this you get the full 100. And I think this is the better fragrance, all things considered. So yeah, definitely check this one out if you haven't already, Bulgari's Man in Black. Alright, so Wednesday, same thing, cloudy, about 40 degrees. However, we got hit with an immense downpour of rain. So in some sense, I wish I would have reached for one of my other Diors, but Wednesday I went with Dior Sauvage Elixir. While Fahrenheit Le Parfum is like more of my go-to rainy day scent, this is like newer to my collection, so I wanted to get some more wears out of it and some more testing. This has been, since I picked it up though, one of my most complimented fragrances. I rarely go out into public without getting, each time I've worn this, I've gotten 2 compliments in the day that I've worn it from 2 different people. So yeah, it's definitely been a grower on me. When I first did my first impressions of this one, it was like a little bit, the opening was a bit off-putting, like the spices were just very in your face, but in the air, and as this settles down, it opens up with a lot more sweetness from the lavender, and is just like an incredible, very masculine, dark, but fresh at the same time. The Elixir concentration definitely makes itself present. Like, it's got a slight syrupiness to it, but not in a bad synthetic way at all. Like, obviously, you know, Dior's probably my favorite house. They have the most offerings that I want to go to my collection and just like sniff the atomizer thereof. A little bit expensive, but this one's finally hitting discounters. I was really close to paying full retail when they first released it, but I'm glad I waited. I think you can find this 60 ml online for around $130 anymore. Definitely get this one if you haven't already. It's, I think, a must-have in any collection. Also, the only Sauvage that I have. I've sampled the Eau de Toilette, but I prefer Prada Luna Rossa Carbon. Maybe I'll get around to the other ones eventually, but I think I'm happy with just having this one in my collection. Beautiful lavender, spicy, aromatic fragrance though, and like I said, huge compliment getter. Dior Sauvage Elixir for Wednesday on a rainy day. Just to comment on how bad the rain was, I was sitting watching an episode of the new Wednesday show with my wife on Netflix, and I heard, like, I thought we were boiling something on the stove because it was like such a you know, a watery sound that was so present in the house, but I was like, are we cooking something right now? And she's like, no, that's just the rain pattering on the window. I was like, wow, it felt like it was, the sound felt like so intimate that it was like inside of the house. But yeah, I digress. Going on to Thursday. So Thursday was, we finally got, it started to get a little bit more sunny out, but the temperature was then starting to kind of teeter off into like colder temperatures, so we were looking at more like 30 degrees. And this, I believe I got in Wednesday night maybe, but yeah, brand new to my collection, but has already entered into, you know, something I'm considering in my top 10 fragrances of all time. The wearing was absolutely phenomenal. It is probably the #1 fragrance in my collection that I experienced the transition from the top notes to the mid to the base most. You know, like the transitions all have, they're each like an episode of different scent profile. Like, it's like such a stark, beautiful wearing that you just get such an different experience out of the layers of it. The performance was only like 6 hours, so that is a little bit of a you know, point against this fragrance, but I think that the low performance has somewhat to do with the high quality ingredients and the amount of naturals in here. Very expensive. I paid around a little bit over $300, and it's very difficult to find it under $400 at the moment, and I heard it might be getting discontinued, but that is going to be Creed's Royal Oud. So this is dominantly a cedar fragrance, and there's some beautiful like pink pepper and citrus in the top, so it comes off as like a very bright sort of fragrance in the opening, and then the mid has like cedar and angelica and I think maybe artemisia, so you get like a foggy forest woody sensation going on in the mid, and then the dry down really surprised me because I was sniffing my hand at like the 4 to 5 hour mark, and I was like, how is this such a beautiful sweet fragrance? Like, what did I actually put on? Like, it doesn't really smell anything like it did at the beginning of the day with the woody kind of peppery citrusy vibe, but the base, you know, maybe the oud was adding to that because I don't really get much of an oud scent profile, but like the woodiness, and then sandalwood is the main sweet component in the base of this one. But yeah, this is just an incredible fragrance. I'm gonna definitely have to get some more wears out of it before I officially rank it in my top 10 of all time, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be making that list if I ever do that video. So that was Thursday's Creed Royal Oud. Alright, so Friday, it was kind of getting cloudy again. The temperature really started dropping off. It was like 20 degrees, so we just kept going down progressively in temperature, and then we also got quite a bit of snow on Friday, and yeah, like the snow was coming down pretty hard to the point where like the roads were getting a little bit bad when I was out in the evening. But I started the day off with Tom Ford's Ombre Leather Parfum. So because it was snowing, I kind of reached for this because there's a violet note in here, which I like to wear when there's precipitation going on because it has like an ozonic wet quality to it. And then I also, there's iris in here that has that powdery sensation. You don't really get that until the dry down in here, but that powdery sensation I like to complement snow. And I did get a compliment, a pretty visceral reaction from this, from a lady I work with. She just like came up and like was like, "Hey, whatever you're wearing smells so good." So that, and then like obviously it's a leather fragrance, so it was really nice to wear in the cold, and I got an incredible amount of enjoyment out of this one. I actually have the regular Eau de Parfum Ombre leather. It should be arriving in the mail today. I have sampled and worn that one before at a Sephora. From what I remember, I do slightly prefer the smell of that one, but I think this one might be slightly more mass appealing and a little bit less in your face. But yeah, incredible fragrance. Definitely think that if you don't already have one of these, definitely get this or the original Ombre leather, because these are for sure in my top 10 of all time. Tom Ford's Ombre leather parfum. Okay, so looking at Saturday night, or Saturday day and night. Again, the snow kept continuing on. Didn't really come down too hard on Saturday, but it was dropping down, still in like the 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and I was going to be going out that evening with some friends that were in from out of town. So I reached for By the Fireplace by Maison Martin Margiela. Smells how it sounds. It's just sort of chestnuts roasting by an open fire with some added sweetness from some vanillic notes. Gaiac wood is like responsible for most of the smokiness, I think. And it was, I didn't get a compliment, but when we were out, we went to a restaurant, me and my buddies, to meet up, and I was just sitting there because they had already eaten, because I had to show up a little bit later. I had a book club earlier in the evening that was delaying my arrival at the restaurant. So I got there and they'd already finished eating, and so I just sat down to socialize. I didn't order any drinks or food. However, the server was floating around me the entire time that she was dealing with my friends, to the point where she came up behind me and then like reached the 2 receipts to my friends on either side of me to place them on the table. So like I think she obviously was enjoying this quite a bit. Even though it's a little bit of a divisive fragrance because of how heavy the smoke is in here, but incredible quality, and I personally enjoy this a whole lot. I said it does kind of remind me of this fragrance, but I prefer wearing this over this. So yeah, that's Maison Martin Margiela's By the Fireplace for Saturday. And then Sunday, which was yesterday, we really fell off a cliff, and it was like sub 10 degrees early in the morning, and I think we hit highs, towards like 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So I went with this fragrance, Winter Nights, from the House of Dason. This is by the same perfumer who does the Imaginary Authors line, Josh Meyer. So if you've smelled anything from Imaginary Authors, this is like a combination of Cape Heartache and A City on Fire. So it's incredibly smoky, but then you have that foresty, sort of woody vibe going on that you get in Cape Heartache, but there's no strawberry in here, which was one of the things I disliked about Cape Heartache, was the strawberry was like kind of synthetic and candied. But yeah, this fragrance is like a really nice, smoky, kind of like a campfire deep out into the woods, accented the incredibly cold weather really well. Definitely a little bit of a hidden gem. It is pretty expensive because they only come in 50 ml, and you're going to be paying a little bit over $100 for this, but I would say sample it, because Josh Meyer is, his offerings are pretty artistic, definitely niche in that sense. So I would say sample this one, because the smoke in here is a little bit, you have to have a taste for that fragrance profile. I know my wife didn't really care for this one that much, but I thoroughly enjoyed wearing it on Sunday, yesterday. And then I do have one more fragrance that I reached for my fragrance of the night Sunday, whereas the rest of these I wore throughout the whole day. However, Sunday I was kind of relaxing towards the end of the day. Took a bath, got washed up, and then reached for this one to kind of settle into bed and just feel kind of cozy given the sharp decline in temperature. And that is Jaguar Oud. So I've spoken about this one in quite a few lists. It's definitely a little bit of a hidden gem in some sense. I think there's only 17 votes for it on Fragrantica currently. But this is... I used to say this smelled a little bit synthetic, but a subscriber of mine kind of changed my perspective on this fragrance and said that it has a rubbery vibe to it, and I think that's a better adjective for this fragrance because like rubber is in some sense a synthetic material, but I don't think saying synthetic does this fragrance justice because it's such a beautiful scent profile. The main note you get in here is cinnamon leaf, which kind of smells a little bit different than normal cinnamon. And then if I could, describe how it smells, I'm gonna hold the candle up to it so you can really get a feel for the color. It smells the way that this burgundy glass looks, if that makes any sense. It's very much like a red fragrance. And Gaiac wood also adds to like the smoky, cozy aspect of this. And then there's also a papyrus note in the base that gives it a bit of a papery feel also. So if you can think of like cinnamon paper and an eraser kind of, I don't know, maybe doing some schoolwork at Starbucks, drinking a cinnamon chai tea latte. It kind of gives you a sense of what's going on here. But then again, there's like a redness to this fragrance. It's hard to describe. But yeah, beautiful and pretty long lasting. I put it on for bed and I woke up this morning and it was still on my skin in the shower. Definitely worth checking out, especially because it's only like sub $30 for this fragrance for 100 ml. Only real knock against it is that the presentation is like awful. Like this cap like doesn't even stay on. Granted, I think I cracked it by dropping it once, so I don't know if that will focus or not. You can kind of see that crack there. So I think it's my fault that it's not fully clicking on, but like the gold here is like just some cheap spray paint, so you're getting like little chips of paint coming off. So yeah, presentation actually the cap is the only bad thing. I think the presentation is pretty nice. But definitely I think for sure check this one out just because the price of entry is like so low and the scent profile is so amazing. So that was Sunday night Jaguar Oud. Okay, so this is probably one of my longest videos to date. Definitely my longest weekly rotation video. Let me know in the comment section what you've been wearing leading up to the holiday season, what your scent of the day today is. Let me know if you've tried any of these and if they're, you get as much enjoyment out of them as I do. And, I'll be looking forward to seeing you more in the upcoming days here. So take care. I'll see you in the next one.